Okay, so we're starting over again. Well, we're not starting over again, but we're picking up where we left off. So sorry about that. Sorry about that. Those of you who are watching, I have to watch too now. So here is the book definition of deconstruction. We'll pick up there. Began as a philosophical movement and a theory of literary criticism. So whatever the literature meant, you deconstruct that, you tear that apart, you decide for yourself what you think it means, not what it doesn't. There's no meaning in what the author says it means. There's only meaning in what you think it means. It questions traditional assumptions about certainty and identity and truth. There is no such thing as truth. There's only what's true for you. There's no such thing as right or wrong. There's only what's right or wrong for you. But that deconstruction bled into other areas as well, not just literary criticism, but media and architecture and ethics and other areas. So there is no assumed ultimate meaning in anything. Deconstruction is a keyword. Meaninglessness is another keyword of postmodernism. There is no belief in a transcendent God. There is no grand narrative. There is no such thing as objective truth. Any truth is determined solely by one's own culture or one's own desires or one's own opinions. Friedrich Nietzsche, who I referenced yesterday, I believe, said this. He said, "There are no facts, only interpretations." Think about that for a minute. There are no facts. 2 plus 2 equals 4 is not a fact. It is an interpretation. Better math grade. Well, that was my interpretation of the answer. Try that on Mrs. Sharp. See how that goes for you. I don't think it's going to turn out well. I really don't. Yeah. But that's postmodernism. There's nothing that is true. There's nothing that is right. It is all interpretation. So there are no moral absolutes. It's only moral relativity. Each person decides his or her own standards by which to live. And we see this deconstruction all over our culture. Now listen, I'm about to, on YouTube, talk about something that will be controversial, that could be controversial. So I want you to understand before I even start talking about this, that I'm not talking about the struggle or the feelings of gender identity. I'm not talking about a person who feels like they are in the wrong body. Okay, I'm talking about the idea of gender itself. Does that make sense? Because that is very postmodern for all of time since Eve gave birth. At birth, it was a boy or a girl. And now we talk about gender being assigned at birth. Here's the thing. Gender has become a fluid concept. It's become a choice, and it's become a matter of interpretation, right? But there's science. You either have 2 X chromosomes or you have an X and a Y. That's what the science says. That's what determines gender. XX, XY. But our culture has deconstructed that so that gender is fluid. I'm not making any sort of right or wrong. I'm just showing you this is postmodernism in our culture. That there's no such thing as truth in gender. It's a matter of how you feel about it. It's an interpretation. It's not science. Which is funny because people on that side often do. Yes?
Peter?
Yes?
Can you release Jake Unit?
Oh, I suppose. Yep. Have a nice day, Jake. This will be on YouTube if you want to watch the rest. So that's deconstruction of the concept of gender in our society. Make of it what you will, agree with it or don't agree with it. That's not my point. My point is that that's deconstruction. Absolute tolerance is a primary virtue, except being tolerant of someone who says that there's right and wrong, that believes in a God, all of that. That's not, don't be tolerant of that, but be tolerant of anything else. Subjective feelings direct one's life. Postmodernism is led by what I feel, what I want, what I think. Postmodernists seek soul and spirit at the same time, but it prefers the experiential over the rational. This is my experience. This is my truth, not based off of the rational, not based off of evidence, just based off of my feeling. So if it feels good, if it makes sense, then that's right for me. Whatever's right for you is right for you. And community is valued over the individual. So postmodernism, in its purest form, leads to life without hope. That word is nihilism, hopelessness, and meaninglessness, which I've quoted for you, Brenda Council, before. To those who live without hope, consequences mean nothing. Nihilism leads to all kinds of horrific things. When I was young, we never had an active shooter. Nobody was going to come in and start shooting up our school. We had some cover drills because the Russians might nuke us. But it wasn't an individual. Yeah, we did. You know what you were supposed to do? Has nobody ever told you? You duck down under your desk. You put your head down, you curled up in a ball, and you put your hands over your head, your arms over your head, because, you know, that was going to stop the A-bomb. That was going to save us. Yeah. What were you going to ask? What were you going to ask? No, it's not. It's not. But we practiced it anyway. Fortunately, it never happened. But for those who live without hope, consequences mean nothing. And I believe that that is why we see mass shootings. We see the uptick, the huge increase in suicide. Because if you believe life is meaningless, why not? Why not? Life is meaningless if there is no hope. So, do you see this in our culture? Where do you see this in our culture? Yeah.
I was going to ask another question.
Yeah.
What would they think about contradictions? Because there's contradictions everywhere. Nietzsche said there are no facts, only interpretations. That's a contradiction in and of itself.
Right, because it's stating it as a fact. Welcome back to 11th grade. Yeah, exactly. But they don't see that, and they would probably just brush it off. Would be my guess. But well, this is my truth.
And that would only be Nietzsche's truth, according to postmodernism.
Yeah.
Then how come it's across the board?
Because that's what they want to believe. That's what they want to believe is true.
How do they even? How are there
I know.
even brain cells in that first?
I don't know, Zeke, but this is what's believed. So just a little background on postmodernism. The term was first used in the 1930s, so it's been around a long time. But the worldview didn't really come into play until the 70s. And it was found first in the area of architecture. We'll talk about a piece of architecture in just a little bit. And then it kind of bled into the rest of the American culture. It grew out of modernism of the late 19th and early 20th centuries that rejected tradition in favor of innovation and experimentation and new ideas. Postmodernism sought to reconcile the seeming incompatibility between differing theories of within a meta-narrative. And so the solution to them was to say there is no meta-narrative, there is no grand narrative. There's only interpretations of life that are meaningful to you. and a variety of different perspectives of the world, all of which have equal value. So it's gonna be okay. I got nicked for the first time on the checks in YouTube for playing Imagine, so I had to silence it to get the video on YouTube, copyright issues. So I'm hoping that this is okay. So here are some pictures from our culture, and we're going to talk a little bit about how they show a postmodern worldview. And I'm going to skip over some of them. Anybody seen The Matrix? Keanu Reeves? Okay, anyone want to give a synopsis of The Matrix? You don't want to give a synopsis? How do you see postmodernism? It's this dystopian, right? This dystopian uh, future, I think. I don't know if it's future or path. Maybe that's fuzzy. Where they're waiting for this Neo, right? This one. And everybody is living their own truth, living their own way. Something along those grounds, anyway. So postmodernism. Simpsons, I don't care about that. Never watched it. I don't want to do that. So South Park and Simpsons both, there's really nothing sacred, right? There's nothing for cartoons when I was growing up, the Roadrunner and the Archies. This is completely different, right? My mom wasn't sure I should watch the Archies. I've never watched a minute of either of those things, so I don't have any interest. But this is Dr. Kevorkian. Dr. Kevorkian, I don't think he's with us anymore. He looked like he was like 96 years old in the 1990s. But he was the one that brought us physician-assisted suicide and got it passed in Washington State. That if somebody wants to kill themselves, you help them do that. That would have been unthinkable to your parents. There would have been, if you would have told my parents when they were young, or if you would have told my grandparents that it's going to be legal to help someone commit suicide in the United States, they would have said that will never happen. But this fuzziness between there's no right and wrong, there's only interpretation, leads to such things. This one is probably the best example of a postmodern movie as I can think of. It's this very violent movie with Samuel L. Jackson, I think is who that is, and John Travolta, and it's a big shoot 'em up. But here's the thing that makes it postmodern: it's a story, and everything's out of order. Like the middle is in the beginning, and then the end is in the middle, and nothing happens in order. It is completely disordered. It is completely deconstructed, and what you would expect in the orderliness of a story is completely broken down. And so even the idea of a fluid story is being deconstructed. Not to mention that war, all that other stuff. Starbucks, it just has to do with us wanting friendship. This one I find interesting. This is the Wexler building. I can't remember what college campus it was on, but they set out to build a building that defied the laws of physics. They wanted a building that didn't use the laws of physics to be built. What could go wrong? So it had stairways that went to nowhere. You see these poles that appear to be load bearing, that don't go all the way to the ground. You'd start walking up a set of stairs, and then they'd stop, and you didn't know where you were going. And so they attempted to defy all laws of physics, and then this is what happened. After the museum's completion, the building was plagued with a series of construction and design issues. Really? Who saw that coming? That tarnished its public image. Unfortunately for deconstructionists everywhere, these flaws appeared to be the result of an ambitious design with an intentional disregard for the practical considerations of traditional architects, a foundational axiom of the doctrine. In 2003, the building underwent an invasive 3-year renovation, only 14 years after its christening. As it approaches its 25th anniversary next month, it seems that most of these issues have been overcome. History, however, should continue to remember them in the context of this great museum as a testament to the price of translation between theory and actualization. They had to pay way more money and take way more time to make this thing look like, appear, and they had to adhere to the laws of physics behind the scenes to create a building that appeared to not adhere to the laws, so that they could say physics isn't truth, it's just an interpretation. See, look at our building that's falling down because it didn't adhere to the laws. That is postmodernism. So how does postmodernism answer the 5 life questions? From where do we come? This is very much the same as for naturalism. The universe created itself. It is the result of random, impersonal, undirected forces of nature. We did not come from a transcendent God. There is no such thing as God. And so humanity is the result of purposeless evolutionary development over millions, maybe billions of years. Why is there such a mess in the world? And this pins it on people of faith, people who advocate for universal truths, that advocate for truth, are the source of the problems in the world. And it's a belief, their belief in absolutes is what causes the power struggles in our world, and things like the Inquisition and the Crusades, in which one individual or group attempts to assert power over another. And those are all done by people of faith, or people that believe in truth. And so they're the problem, and that is the problem with the world. Is there any hope? There's nothing we can put our trust in. So there can't be any hope, because there's nothing we can trust. To those who live in hopelessness, consequences mean nothing. I'm going to show you a quick clip. I'm going to pause the video because I don't want to get in trouble again on YouTube while I play. So yeah, we see postmodernism in doing what feels good, doing what makes sense to me in this clip. Yeah, what hope do I have? There's nothing to put our trust in, so there is no hope. What is my purpose in life? And we must continually question everything. There is no purpose other than to deconstruct anything and to put down any purpose that our culture or religion or philosophy brings our way. Be tolerant of everything, accept anyone or anything that says there's such a thing as. And then what happens when I die? I'm dead. That's it. It's all over. There's nothing beyond that. So we're going to watch 2 more quick clips, and then we'll wrap it up for today.